Episode 8 of Winning Time, California Dreamin', is over, and we're here to talk about it. I am Jose Salviati, editor of thepeachbasket.net, and I lived through the 80s Showtime era.
And I'm Evan Moore, and you can follow me on Twitter at morehoop727, and I'm also a contributor for thepeachbasket.com. .net, sorry, .net.
Yes. And a lot of people ask me, why .net? Why don't you have the .com? Do you know why we're .net?
Well, of course, because basketball nets, of course.
Boom. Yeah, a lot of people don't get it. Once they get it, they understand it. Yeah, so we purposefully got .net because the Peach Basket was the first net, so it made sense to me. So actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that is something I've been meaning to bring up. The other thing that surprisingly some people ask us, and if they ask me this question, I know that our site probably isn't for them, is what's the Peach Basket? Why'd you call it the Peach Basket? If you have to ask, we're probably not the site for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's dive right in. But before we do, I want a quick thank you to our sponsor, Dimers.com. No more watching from the sidelines. Dimers.com gives sports fans the tools, analysis, and information they need to excel at sports betting. Dimers' mission is to bring sports fans like you together and to be a key part of your online sports betting experience. We're excited to have Dimers.com as a partner of the peachbasket.net and sponsor of our Winning Time, the Rise of the Lakers Dynasty reviews. Thanks again to Dimers for sponsoring us. All right, let's get right into it then. All right, what we usually do is we start with kind of an encapsulation of the show, which I'm about to give you. But before we do, as always, we want this to be as interactive as possible. We want to hear from you. If you're watching us on Twitter, unfortunately, we can't take your comments there. But if you could jump over to YouTube and search for the Peach Basket, you'll find us. Leave your comments, questions there. We'd love to have you be a part of our show. We'd love to hear what you think. If you agree with our takes, if you disagree with our take, what do you think about the show? Jump over to YouTube and find us there and interact with us for the next 20 minutes or so. Unfortunately, Facebook isn't working right now, but you can absolutely find us on YouTube. In episode 8 of Winning Time, we find the Lakers on a roll. They're guided by interim head coach Paul Westhead and new assistant Pat Riley. The All-Star game gives Magic an opportunity to meet Dr. J, his hero, while Dr. Bus deals with tragedy back home. Coach McKinney's on the mend and traveling with the team, which sets up a power struggle between the coach that started the season and the coaches that are guiding the team on a championship run. That's kind of the episode in a nutshell. Let's dive deeper into it. Evan, you saw it. What'd you think of episode 8?
This was a really heavy episode. There were a lot of really rough scenes kind of watch. A lot of people just kind of being unlikable in this
Yeah.
one. I mean, really all around, starting with Jack McKinney's return. I
Yeah.
mean, he's not so, like I said, likable and calm about things. He's a little bit more, gruff and just, he's also stressed and worried that, his job is getting taken out from under him and everything.
Yeah.
And, I'd be worried too. These
Sure.
guys come in and they're doing a great job. It's like you want them to do a good job, but you don't want them to do too good of a job
Yeah.
when they take over. So yeah, I mean that was really good. And then even Milton Berle's little appearance, his tiny little cameo,
Right.
he's really unlikable because he's telling a really distasteful joke.
And they made a point of saying, I didn't fact check it, but I believe it, that was an actual joke that he said at that time, which is,
Yeah.
wow, different time.
Yeah, different time. Yeah, I mean that's still when Don Rickles was in his heyday too. So comedy was a lot more edgy back in the 70s and 80s for sure.
Right.
And then got to see a little peek of David Stern. That was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Get a little bit of him, and then finally got to see Haywood dive into the drugs.
Right.
Yeah, another rough scene. And then, Magic getting Cookie's friend pregnant. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a tough scene to watch. Like, oh, like, yeah, didn't want to be in either of their shoes and that, yeah. And then, you know, what I did really like though was seeing Dr. J and Dr. J hustling Magic with his smoothness was really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Because it's like, Magic's smiling so happy, but then like after the game, it like all comes crashing down. And he realizes like, God damn it, he just played me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was that's Doc, and I've always loved Doc. Like
Oh
Doc
yeah.
holds a special place in my heart for basketball, and like he was Mr. Cool like that, and just you know this actor did great. The only thing like that he doesn't quite have is that Doc has one of the coolest voices ever. And it's just hard for anybody to
Sure.
imitate that. So when he'd talk, it'd be like, not quite.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
I have a comment about that as well. But yeah, I agree with you.
But yeah, this was a really heavy episode. And then, you know, Jerry Buss dealing with his mom and cancer
Yeah.
and the awkwardness with his daughter and everything like
Yeah.
that. Those were some really difficult scenes to watch.
Yeah.
And yeah. So yeah, this was a really, really heavy episode. I felt like, it's
Yeah.
not one that I'm going to probably go back and watch again,
Right.
like the previous one.
Right. You encapsulated it so well. It was heavy. It was, there was family tragedy. There was, the awkwardness with the family. Jeannie just kind of getting kind of seeing her dad a different way in the show, and it drives her to vomit, which was just wow.
Yeah.
That was a wow scene. Yeah, just all of a sudden, you've got an otherwise likable underdog McKinney. All of a sudden now he's the bad guy. It was not a pleasant episode. And you nailed it. I don't think there's any doubt. So a couple of tidbits, but before we actually get to it, a quick shout out again to Derek and Akeem. Unfortunately, life gets in the way. They're not able to join us today. The show is better when they are with us.
Absolutely.
It's not to say it's bad with us, because it's okay with us, but it's better with them. Absolutely. And we miss you both and hope to to see you for over the next 2 weeks. 2 episodes left, so we hope to have you there. I also wanted to bring up, because I think it'd be would be an issue, an error if we don't. Number one, Winning Time was renewed for a second season, which is kind of cool. Nice. I need to see where the season ends to kind of get a feel for what's coming in episode 2. But I could take this all day. Keep it coming. It's fascinating information, and something that I'd love to see season 2. And Jerry West, we've talked a lot about Jerry West's portrayal here, and he is suing. He's demanding an apology. I'm not sure if he can actually sue, but he's certainly demanding an apology, and that's unfortunate. I understand it, and everything I've heard. What's really interesting, what I've read and what I've seen on Twitter, everybody has come to Jerry West's defense and saying he's not like that. He's never been like that. And I'm looking for that same defense for Chick Hearn's character, and I'm not seeing it, unfortunately. So I think they might have got Chick, but Jerry West, they again, we know this is an over dramatization, but Jerry West is upset about it. Just bringing that up because it's
I'm really glad you brought that up. I've really been thinking about this portrayal a lot, and I've been really thinking really the issue is not so much because I've read enough accounts of Jerry that he was self-doubting. The leprechaun really haunted him. He was prone to anger, but not any over the top anger. He's he's more of a seething anger kind of guy. Like he'll just give you the look kind of thing. And so that's what I feel is kind of this actor Jason Clark, is that his name again? I think I remember that right. But he's just really kind of like taking it like to an extra dramatic level that just doesn't necessarily need to be there. Now, I understand kind of why he's doing it, but I think that in Jerry West's defense, it should be toned down a little bit more, and it should be a little bit more seething and passive aggressive than in your face. And that's just the way I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is Jason Clarke. You got it right. I was surprised to see an interview with him, and he's Australian, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah, because he does the accent really well.
He does.
But yeah, I agree. I think it's unfortunate. It's a bummer. Other players have come out and said this isn't. It's not close. It's not right. And again, we talked about this last week. This isn't a documentary. It's not meant to be. And I sincerely hope, because I think that's the concern. People are concerned they're going to see this and think that really happened. That Pat Riley, gave an interview and pulled the rug out from under McKinney, and things like that didn't happen. But that interview specifically with McKinney at the bar watching the TV, I thought was telling, because I'm sure that Pat Riley interview didn't happen. I'd say with 99% certainty, but I'm sure that's what the Lakers were thinking, right? We've got a good thing with Westhead. It's a tough decision to make. We don't know what McKinney's status is going to be like. So what Pat Riley, in that interview encapsulated was kind of the thought process, I think, of the Lakers brass. They had a tough decision to make, and then, they'll make it in the next episode, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That interview likely didn't happen. So, people don't want to be upset with Pat Riley. I'm sure it didn't happen, but the feeling was there. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. And, I also, think that Jack, oh shoot, lost my train of thought there. I had a point there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem. Anyway, yeah, why don't we move on to the next thing? I've lost it there. I'm sorry.
It'll come back.
It'll come back. Yeah, exactly.
We'll be here. Well, let me give you my little tidbits about this particular episode. You mentioned Milton Berle and Dr. J. I wrote them both down, but this is why. It's always neat to see these people you kind of grew up watching, but the casting in this show has been so good. To the point where I can see him. You got to squint, undeniably. But I buy into these characters. I thought the Dr. J casting wasn't great, and you nailed it, right? The voice, he just looked older. Dr. J was older at that point. That's undeniable. But I didn't buy it. I didn't see Dr. J when I looked at that character. And same with Milton Berle. And that was such a small little piece. It's kind of a throwaway scene. Apologies to the actor who portrayed him. But Milton Berle didn't look like that. I mean, it just didn't even come close. Yeah. I squinted, and I still didn't see Milton Berle. But I thought, I think they put so much effort into, casting the key players. Maybe they put a little less effort into casting these guys. I thought it was really funny that Magic Johnson was sitting with I guess, assistant commissioner at the time, David Stern, and said, rookie of the year, wink, wink. I said, oh no, we don't. The writers vote on that. We don't pick them. Oh yeah, but you kind of do, because there was in the NBA back then. There was a lot of controversy around the Knicks getting the first pick, Patrick Ewing, right? There's all sorts of conspiracy videos about that. And so, yeah, I thought that was kind of a funny little wink and a nudge back to what. A lot of people suspected in the NBA back then. I don't think that happens anymore. I'm sure it doesn't, but I kind of think it might have back then. There was one line in that scene with Stern and Magic, which I thought was pretty powerful. He said, "Being a hero is a full-time job." And I was like, "Wow, that was pretty good." And I'm not sure if that's advice that he gave him, but I thought that conversation with Stern and the conversation with Jerry West in the locker room, told him, it's a different breed of person that goes after championships, right? You can be good. You got the talent, but you got to be different. And so I thought those two things were pretty telling. And again, those conversations might not have ever happened, but at some point Magic had to come to that realization that, I'm Magic now. There's Irvin and there's Magic, and Magic's being a full-time job, above reproach. And I got to be different if I go after those championships. I thought that was really cool. I talked to you already about the Pat Riley interview. which I don't think happened, but certainly was the thought process of the Lakers when they knew they had to make a decision with McKinney coming back. I'm an LA guy for a long time, and there was kind of a throwaway line. It was a commercial I think the chick went to Cal Worthington and his dog Spot. And if you've been in LA for maybe you got to be 20 years back now, you remember Cal Worthington and his dog Spot. And I thought that was the coolest thing. I know that Akeem and Derek would be just looking at me with fog in their eyes right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly. Yep.
Cal Worthington was a used car salesman in Long Beach who did these over-the-top commercials. And his commercials were kind of legendary in LA. And I thought it was kind of neat that they gave him just a little bit of time in this show. I thought that was kind of fun.
That was cool. Oh, and I remembered the point that I was trying to make earlier.
Yes, good.
That, I remember in the book, I don't think that Jack actually really came back and did the pressure like this, because the way it was talked about in the book was that, he tried, to make some effort to come back, but was having so much trouble with his memory that they finally decide on March 13th of 1980 that, we're going to move on with Westhead and Riley.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's, so I really want to go back and reread it just to reconfirm it. But I do not remember any talk of him coming back and pressuring Westhead or Riley.
Sure.
So I think this was fabricated, for the show, just to kind of add that little extra pressure and that little drama about that, because I'm sure it was there, but it probably wasn't at this level.
Right. Yeah, I don't doubt it. And that the whole conversation around, Pat Riley wanting to trade Spencer Haywood, McKinney not wanting to, coaches don't make that decisions. Even then they didn't make those decisions. Yeah. They might have wanted to, but they didn't have any power to trade these particular players. So yeah, I think there was a lot, kind of like I said last week, a lot of dramatization around this episode. But yeah, no, good point. I'm sure that again, that wasn't it. But again, I know that was bubbling. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always a little bit of truth to everything they dramatize. Right.
Yep.
So the last thing I'll finish with, it was great to see, some Philadelphia 76er legends, even though we just got to see their backs, Lionel Hollins, Mo Cheeks, Daryl Dawkins.
Yeah.
Daryl Dawkins, they had a 6'3" player playing him, which I thought was weird. Do they not know who Daryl Dawkins was? That was Thunder, man.
Exactly.
Get a bigger dude. That would have been a perfect cameo for Shaq or somebody. So that was kind of fun. And then this is the last one. I made a mistake. I thought my earlier point was the last point. This, I promise, is the last point. They start that 76er game with Dr. J doing that cup dunk that's famous. Now that dunk was on Michael Cooper, and Michael Cooper went up to block it. He's a phenomenal defender, and in midair he realized how wrong he was.
Exactly.
He just pulled back, and Dr. J just windmilled. It was the most amazing, one of the most amazing. The guy's amazing, Dr. J. Again, I know Akeem and Derek know who Dr. J is. But if y'all don't know who Dr. J is, do yourself a favor and just look up some YouTube videos. The guy was amazing. And that dunk was powerful, but it was on Coop. It wasn't on Magic, which is no big deal because I understand why they did it the way they did it because of that, that meeting with Magic. But yeah, at the end of the day, this was a dark episode. And I think it's setting things up for certainly what's to come in episode 9, which I think, you and I both see that writing on the wall. But before we get to episode 9, let's talk about your winner in this episode. Now, it might be tough to pick one, right? Because we both kind of feel this was a little bit of a dark episode. But who's your winner? What's your favorite scene?
Yeah, like you said, was really, really tough to pick. So, after milling about and thinking about it, Dr. J, even though he wasn't quite there, Doc was my winner. Because it was just like, even the not up to par portrayal, I love Doc so much. It was just that was good enough for me. And then also favorite scene was really hard to pick, so I had to think about that one for a while too. And then really my favorite scene ended up being the opening scene where Jerry Buss was talking about the 4-minute mile.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was powerful. Yeah.
That was really cool. Just like never thought anybody was going to break the 4-minute mile. And then, like, he ends it with, the guy who broke that 4-minute mile, who broke it, or how long it took to break it after that? 46
Yeah.
days. Remember his name? Neither do I.
That was so good. And the way they shot that was just so neat. Yeah, that was really powerful.
Yeah. So that would be my choice.
Right on. Right on. Well, if I would have remembered that one, I think I would have picked that, but I won't. I won't steal it from you because yeah, that's a great one. I'd forgotten all about it. Yeah, really, really difficult. When I think of this kind of dark episode, I think the one character that stuck with me was Jeannie Boss. She didn't have a lot of face time in this episode, but I thought, again, it was so human, such a human thing when you see your hero and you're let down a little. And that's really been a recurring theme for me watching this show, because we talked about it with Jerry West and Chick Hearn. These are guys that, I admired, and you're starting to see a little bit about who they are. But that scene with Jeannie, when she saw her dad, and her grandma kind of, trying to keep bad news from him, and him being a little bit of a dog, and it all kind of came together, and don't look behind the curtain kind of thing. And then she got a peek behind the curtain, and she reacted the way she reacted. I thought that was really human, really powerful. I think, at some point we all kind of have that, with our parents or, family members, where you start to find out things that you kind of wish you didn't. I just thought it was a powerful, powerful scene. So because of that, as weird as it is, that's the one, character that kind of stayed with me. So she's my winner. And the scene that I liked was the one with Jerry West kind of sitting down and schooling Magic and kind of letting him know, you're very good. Obviously, you're an all-star player. But we need a little more from you if we're going to win a championship. It's not just talent. You got the talent. The talent's in this room. We got a great team, but we need more. We need more. And I just thought that was kind of cool, because I think we say it all the time. NBA playoffs are going right now. And the one thing we'll say when we see, two teams pitted against each other, and one team, say made it to the conference finals and one team has never been to the playoffs before, we give the team with the conference finals experience the edge, because there's something about going up that ladder. It changes you as a player. And Jerry West kind of letting Magic know that, I thought was neat. KD just said it, championships, players are built differently for championships. KD said it. Draymond agreed with him. And it's true today. It was true then. And I thought that was kind of powerful. So that's my favorite scene. I thought that was kind of a neat scene.
Yeah, I like that scene a lot too. I always love the old guy sitting the young guy down, and
yeah,
I love that kind of stuff. So
yeah, no, you can't lose. That's a tried and true recipe, I think, and it definitely worked. All right, episode 9. Right now, on IMDb, it's listed as acceptable loss. Now, last week we told y'all that this episode was going to be called "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough," and it still shows that way in IMDb, which is really weird. But HBO released it as California Dreamin'. Evan and I talked about why that might have happened. I don't know. I'm going to see if I can find out. But right now, episode 9 is called "Acceptable Loss." And, knowing what we know about this team and its history, it's a very telling title. But, Evan, what do you see coming in episode 9?
Yeah. The acceptable loss is going to be Jack McKinney. And because it's time to move on. And you started to see the little bit of, how he's pushing himself, but he's not ready. Like when he's there in the restaurant, just signing the picture, and he has to get the little hint from Westhead about this is Nick. This is Nick's place.
Yeah.
And write it down. And I think he's going to come to the hard realization that I'm not ready to be out there for 48 minutes remembering all this stuff. That's a tall task. And it's going to be tough. And then I think it's also going to be a setup for the beginning of the playoffs, because the way this seems to time out, with this being episode 8, I'm guessing that we're going to get a little bit of the playoffs, and then we'll get the finals in episode 10. The amazing finals against the Sixers. That's the other reason that's significant with Jerry sitting Magic down, because Jerry knows, like, this is a team that we're most likely going to face if we make it there.
Right.
And they do, and that's an epic finals. Like, don't want to spoil too much of it for you, but those of you who haven't seen that finals, it's something to behold.
Yeah.
I
think you're right. I think you nailed it. I've got a story to tell about that final series. I'll save it for episode 10 because I agree with you. I think that's probably where we're headed. I think acceptable loss episode 9 is likely because they set up so many losses, right? We know, Jack McKinney is likely, but I also think we might see, Dr. Buss losing his mom, and we might see Spencer Haywood, traded. Those losses, those 3 losses. So that's kind of what I see coming. All of which, and generally that's the way you do it, right? In Hollywood, this isn't a dramatization, y'all. This is not a documentary. Once again, you like to set up, a big finish with a little bit of a downer, right? Your hero's got to be hurting before they can rise as champions. So I think as dark as this episode was, I think we might see some more, loss and darkness and disappointment and tragedy in episode 9. So yay, that'll be fun. I really sold it, didn't
Another
I?
dark one.
I think so, unfortunately. But I think that's
you're right.
That's likely what's coming. But what a blast this has been. Such a great show. I'm excited to know that there's another season coming.
Yeah,
and always excited to talk to you about this show. Hopefully next week we'll have either Akeem and or Derek with us. We've got 2 episodes left, which blows my mind. This has gone by so quick. But that'll do it for our episode 8 recap. Thanks for watching. As always, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week to recap episode 9, Acceptable Loss. We'll talk to y'all then. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
The voice of the fan. Drop a bounce pass, throw down the rim rocker. Lay up off the glass, right past the shot blocker. I follow through like Kobe's is money. You can cash it. For news on LA hoops, come over to Beach Basket. Up to date sports, post game reports, debates and play-by-play coming straight off the court. The voice of the fan making noise, causing havoc. Zone a man up, you can ask Peach Basket. The Peach Basket, coming tune on there. The Peach Basket, where the news begins. We're dropping news like we're in the stands. Creative views from the average fans. The